You are currently paying for your own captivity. Behind the glowing glass in your hand, a trillion-dollar machine is silently strip-mining your deepest insecurities and devouring your finite heartbeats. Your mind is bleeding out. Watch until the end to discover how to sever these invisible strings forever. Before you even take your first conscious breath, before your eyes can properly adjust to the morning light filtering through your window, what is the very first thing your hand instinctively searches for? The cold, smooth glass of your smartphone. In less than a fraction of a second, the screen ignites, and you willingly step into a deafening, relentless slaughterhouse of human consciousness. Without a moment's hesitation, you allow a colossal tidal wave of unfiltered chaos to drown your mind. Sensationalized headlines designed to terrify you, venomous condemnations, fleeting trends you are violently pressured to follow, and bleeding tragedies unfolding half a world away. We are voluntarily wiring our fragile nervous systems directly into a global machine of hysteria, and the most terrifying part is that we do not even realize our minds are bleeding out. Myth Eryndor warmly welcomes you to this journey into the dark depths of our modern reality. If this harsh truth resonates with the silent exhaustion hiding within you, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Your support is the vital motivation we need to continue crafting these deep, soul-searching videos for you. I am not sitting here speaking to you as some enlightened observer preaching from a pedestal. This is a confession. I used to begin my every single day exactly like that, serving as a blindly devoted gear within this roaring machinery. I was consumed by the suffocating terror of missing out, letting an invisible algorithm dictate the rhythm of my heartbeat. I spent countless hours scrolling into the abyss, eagerly joining collective digital lynchings and leaving venomous words for strangers I had never met, all because a cleverly edited post told me who the enemy was. In those fleeting moments of manufactured outrage, I felt powerful, I felt righteous, I believed I was a warrior of justice, standing tall with my tribe. Yet the exact moment the screen went black, leaving me alone with my reflection in the dark, silent room, all that remained was a chilling, hollow void. I was left with a profound, bone-deep exhaustion that did not come from physical labor, but from my brain being relentlessly strip-mined for its emotional currency. This agonizing emptiness forced me to stop and confront the most heartbreaking paradox of our civilization. Why is it that we, a generation holding the entirety of human knowledge at the mere swipe of a finger, have become the most easily manipulated, profoundly divided, and terrifyingly superficial humans to ever walk the earth? We boast about being the apex of intellectual evolution, yet we are behaving like the most fragile puppets dancing on strings we cannot even see. We are trapped inside a matrix, not a physical prison of cables and vats, like in dystopian science fiction, but a far more insidious labyrinth of the mind. It is a flawlessly engineered ecosystem designed by the brightest minds of our era, with one singular predatory objective: to harvest your attention, weaponize your emotions, and devour your finite time on this earth. What I am sharing today is not a moralistic lecture. It is a desperate lifeline I am throwing out to myself and to you. This is an invitation to step back from the edge. Let us pull ourselves out of this raging current, stand on the quiet shore, and look deep into the terrifying architecture of our modern reality, because it is only by recognizing the invisible strings violently jerking our limbs that we stand any chance of cutting them and reclaiming our stolen humanity. To truly understand how to sever these violent, invisible strings, we must first dare to examine the cold mechanics of the puppeteer that holds them. The digital ecosystem we inhabit was not born out of a naive desire to connect humanity. It was meticulously forged to mine our most vulnerable psychological triggers. Behind the colorful interfaces and infinite scrolls are thousands of the most brilliant engineers and behavioral psychologists of our generation, working tirelessly with a single ruthless mandate to keep your eyes fixed on the glass. They have expertly mapped the ancient tribal wiring of our brains, exploiting our primal need for belonging and our deep-seated fear of ostracization. Every notification ping is a calculated hit of synthetic dopamine, a fleeting validation that temporarily soothes our insecurities while simultaneously ensuring we will inevitably return for more. I remember scrolling through seas of perfectly curated lives, feeling an agonizing inadequacy gnawing at my chest. We are force-fed a constant suffocating diet of artificial perfection bodies we cannot attain, lifestyles we cannot afford, and hollow milestones that reduce the magnificent complexity of human existence to a mere performance for strangers. We have tragically traded the profound intimacy of true connection for the cheap, fleeting currency of likes and shares. In this vast, interconnected web, we are supposedly more linked than any generation in human history. Yet we are drowning in an epidemic of unprecedented, crushing loneliness. We sit in crowded rooms across from the people we love most in the world, yet our minds are thousands of miles away, wandering aimlessly through a digital purgatory. The screen has become a barrier, a glowing shield we desperately use to avoid the terrifying vulnerability of looking into another human being's eyes. We have been conditioned to believe that this digital avatar we have painstakingly constructed is our true self, pouring our vital life force into a phantom while our physical bodies wither in sedentary isolation. The ultimate tragedy is not just that we are being manipulated, it is that we are paying for our own captivity with the most precious, irreplaceable resource we possess, our finite time. The hours slip unnoticed into days, the days dissolve into years, and we are left clutching a handful of digital ash, wondering where the vibrancy of our lives went. We are trapped in a perpetual state of reaction, stripped of our sovereign agency, endlessly consuming the thoughts and lives of others, while our own inner world is left barren and neglected. We must ask ourselves what we are so desperately running from when we plunge our faces into the glow of the screen, because the answer reveals the exact shape of the chains that bind us. The heaviest of these chains is not merely our digital isolation from each other, but the tragic, complete severance from our own inner voices. We have developed an absolute paralyzing terror of silence. I realized the depth of my own affliction when I found myself incapable of walking down a quiet street, washing the dishes, or even sitting alone for 5 minutes without instinctively plugging a podcast or a video into my ears. We treat silence as an enemy to be vanquished, a terrifying void that must be violently filled with external noise. But why are we so deeply afraid of the quiet? Because silence is a mirror. When the noise stops and the digital numbing agent wears off, we are forced to confront the raw, unedited reality of our own existence. In the quiet, we must face our unhealed wounds, our mounting anxieties, and the haunting, inescapable realization of our own mortality. So we run, we scroll faster, consume louder, and drown ourselves in an endless avalanche of trivial information, desperately hoping to outpace the quiet desperation echoing in our own minds. This pathological avoidance of silence is systematically destroying our capacity for profound independent thought. We are rapidly losing the patience required to read a complex book, to sit with a difficult emotion, or to simply let our minds wander into the uncharted territories of imagination. Our attention spans have been violently shattered into 15-second fragments, rendering us incapable of synthesizing deep truths or engaging in the slow, painstaking labor of self-discovery. I felt this agonizing atrophy within myself, a terrifying shallowness, where my creativity and intuition used to reside. The great philosophers, artists, and innovators of history birthed their masterpieces in the sacred womb of solitude and unbroken focus. By eradicating silence from our modern lives, we are effectively castrating our own potential, reducing our magnificent minds to mere processing nodes for useless, fleeting data. We are substituting genuine wisdom for a chaotic stream of facts and opinions that we mechanically regurgitate without ever truly understanding them. The human mind, much like a muscle, requires periods of deep rest and quiet reflection to grow, to heal, and to make sense of a chaotic world. Without it, we exist in a state of chronic cognitive inflammation, constantly agitated, constantly defensive, and entirely incapable of finding peace. The death of silence is the death of the soul's sanctuary, leaving us homeless within our own bodies, wandering aimlessly through a deafening reality we no longer recognize. Confronting this deafening reality and the terrifying atrophy of my own soul was the painful catalyst that finally forced me to drop the glowing screen and step into the absolute quiet. The initial disconnection was not a peaceful retreat into Zen-like tranquility. It was a visceral, agonizing withdrawal. My brain, heavily addicted to a decade of relentless dopamine surges, screamed in violent protest. I felt phantom vibrations in my pocket, instinctively reaching for a phone that wasn't there hundreds of times a day. The sudden onset of boredom was physically painful, a suffocating weight pressing against my chest that made me want to claw at the walls, but I forced myself to sit in that agonizing discomfort. I sat in the silent, empty room and let the crashing waves of anxiety, the fear of missing out, and the existential dread wash entirely over me. And then, slowly, miraculously, a profound shift began to occur. The deafening roar of the digital world began to fade into the background, and my own dormant senses slowly blinked awake. I vividly remember taking a walk without my device for the first time in years. I noticed the specific, vibrant shade of green in the leaves above me. I felt the crisp, biting wind against my face, not as a background inconvenience, but as a vivid, grounding sensation of being profoundly alive. I tasted my food instead of obsessively photographing it. I listened truly deeply, listened to the melodic cadence of a loved one's voice, watching the subtle micro-expressions on their face, without glancing down at a notification. The world had not changed. I had merely returned to it. This is the excruciatingly beautiful awakening that awaits us all on the other side of the glass. It is the breathtaking realization that reality in all its mundane, unedited, and sometimes painful glory is infinitely more fulfilling than the most perfectly curated digital illusion. When you finally stop outsourcing your memory to a camera roll and your opinions to a faceless algorithm, you begin to rebuild the collapsed architecture of your own identity. You begin to remember what it feels like to be undeniably, messily human. The withdrawal is the necessary fire we must walk through to burn away the synthetic numbing agents we have relied on for far too long. It hurts because our neglected emotional muscles are tearing and rebuilding. We begin to cry over beautiful music again. We feel genuine sorrow rather than manufactured performative outrage. We experience moments of profound, unrecorded joy that belong solely to us. Breaking free from the matrix is an act of violent, necessary rebellion against a system that wants you sedated. Ceasing to function as a sedated biological battery for this machine does not mean we must burn our devices and flee to the wilderness, but rather that we must ruthlessly redefine who is serving whom. Technology is a miraculous, awe-inspiring tool, but it is a catastrophic, soul-crushing master. The reclamation of our stolen humanity begins with the immediate drawing of uncompromising boundaries. It begins the exact moment you decide that your bedroom is a sacred sanctuary for rest and intimacy, not a glowing theater for the world's unending tragedies. It begins when you consciously choose to leave your phone behind while you step outside, deliberately severing the umbilical cord to the frantic digital hive mind. We must urgently relearn the lost art of intentionality. Before the screen illuminates your face, you must pause and ask yourself, am I using this tool to create, to learn, or to genuinely connect? Or am I mindlessly bleeding my irreplaceable time into the void simply to escape myself? You must become the fierce, unapologetic guardian of your own attention, because I promise you, if you do not fiercely protect your mind, there is a trillion-dollar industry eagerly waiting to claim it. We are granted an unknown, terrifyingly brief number of heartbeats on this spinning rock. Look down at your hands right now. Feel the steady pulse in your wrists. This physical, breathing, tactile reality is the absolute only thing we truly possess. Do you really want to reach the end of your life and realize that you spent decades staring down at a piece of illuminated glass, witnessing a pale simulation of life rather than actively living it? Do you want your final legacy to be a perfectly archived digital footprint, or a rich tapestry of profound, messy, beautiful human connections? The choice is entirely yours, but it must be made today, right now, before the algorithm seamlessly queues up the next distraction. I am standing here on the quiet shore, reaching my hand out to you through this very medium, asking you to finally wake up, turn off the notifications, close the infinite, soul-draining feed, step outside, look up at the vast, indifferent sky, and take a deep, sovereign breath. Feel the absolute miracle of your own conscious existence. The Matrix will always be there, humming softly in the background, waiting for a moment of weakness. But you possess the ultimate power, the power to look away, turn off the screen, go find your life. Conclusion. The modern digital landscape is not merely an innocent tool for connection, but a meticulously engineered trap designed to hijack our attention and monetize our deepest psychological vulnerabilities. We have tragically traded the profound beauty of authentic human experience for a sterile, lonely digital purgatory, developing a paralyzing fear of silence along the way. In our frantic attempt to escape our own unhealed wounds and the terrifying reality of our mortality, we drown our inner voices in an endless stream of synthetic dopamine and trivial noise. Escaping this matrix requires enduring the visceral agony of withdrawal, facing the excruciating boredom and anxiety of disconnecting. Yet walking through this necessary fire is the only way to awaken our dormant senses, restore our attention spans, and rebuild our fractured identities. We do not need to abandon technology entirely, but we must ruthlessly reclaim our sovereign agency and redefine our relationship with it. Our time is painfully finite, and our heartbeats are numbered. The ultimate tragedy is paying for our own captivity with the irreplaceable currency of our fleeting lives. We must choose to stop existing as biological batteries for an algorithm and start living deeply, intentionally, and messily in the physical world. The ultimate power to break these invisible chains lies simply in the courageous act of looking away from the glass. Profound lesson learned. Technology is a miraculous servant, but a soul-crushing master. True wisdom, creativity, and human connection are born in the quiet, uncurated, and often uncomfortable moments of reality, not within the endless scroll of artificial perfection. Your attention is the most valuable and finite resource you possess, and if you do not fiercely protect it, a trillion-dollar industry will consume it. How to apply this to your current life? Establish sacred boundaries, designate specific areas of your life as completely tech-free zones. Start with your bedroom. Make it a sanctuary for rest and intimacy, not a theater for digital scrolling. Embrace intentional silence. Deliberately practice doing mundane tasks, washing dishes, folding laundry, or walking down the street without plugging in a podcast or music. Allow your mind to wander and face the quiet. The pause principle. Before your screen illuminates, force yourself to pause for 3 seconds and ask, am I using this to intentionally learn, create, or connect? Or am I just trying to escape my own mind? Unplugged presence. Leave your phone in another room or behind at home when spending quality time with loved ones or going for a walk in nature. Anchor yourself entirely in the physical sensations of the present moment. A question for you. What is one specific time of day when you find yourself mindlessly reaching for your phone out of pure habit? And what is one small thing you could do instead? Please politely share your perspective in the comments section below so we can all read, relate, and learn from each other's experiences. If you found value in this message, please subscribe to the channel. Your support is incredibly appreciated and gives us the motivation to keep creating deep, meaningful content for you in the future.